Welcome, everybody. I am Alana.
And I'm Lady.
And this is Spookery.
Oh, it sure heck it is. It sure heck it is.
We are back.
We're back after 1 week of uninterrupted spookery content.
Only 1 week. You're right. That's
Only
it.
1 week. Yeah, that's all it's been.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've made this reference a couple times in this episode. Or not this episode. This season.
Mm-hmm.
We've made that reference a couple, and it's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
You don't need to ask more questions.
No further questions, Your Honor.
No, we're back. And that's all you need to know. With
Yes.
another juicy topic for you, spooky listeners.
Oh my gosh. It's your second? Yeah, it's your second Cryptids and Folklore. And I'm a little jealous because I really want this category, but I am denied. Fervorously, I am denied.
I'm just going to keep hogging it. It's my favorite one, and it's mine.
Yeah. You can trade. I have hearts and spades. We can trade.
That's true. I hope I get hearts and spades. I have a few hearts and spades ready to go lined up, so we'll see.
We'll see what the spookery spirits have in store for you.
Heck yeah, we will. But yeah, this is definitely one of my top 5 favorite topics for sure. So I decided to bust out another one of my childhood favorites.
Oh, I can't wait. I mean, like, you kind of live in, like, cryptid, like, I don't know, like the perfect hotspot of cryptid activity. Like, you just have everything.
Yeah.
And you're close enough to everything else. Whereas, like, I have the swamp Sasquatch.
I mean, show Swamp Sasquatch some respect, okay? He's doing his best out there.
The fucking the stinky boy. He's just really smelly. And then other than that, we have just large snakes and crocodiles. Sorry, alligators. These are alligators over here.
Alligators in the sewers.
Yeah, we flush them down the toilets.
Yeah.
And then we release the 27-foot pythons into the swamps, and they're eating all the alligators.
Oh my gosh. Poor Sasquatch out there fighting for his life.
The swamp Sasquatch is just like, oh, guys, please. No wonder we only have one. All the pythons and the alligators are eating them all.
I think we're onto something with
God
this.
damn it!
The Sasquatch are just endangered. That's all it is because of the alligators.
They used to be abundant in these swamps, and now we're running out of crawfish and we're running out of swamp Sasquatches.
They used to roam like
So
buffalo. They were all over the place. That's really it, man.
Well, let's not lament on my lack of cryptids. Let's focus on your overabundance of cryptids. And like, I feel like your teaser last week and the week before that was just like, I'm going to pick something close to home, and I'm like, this doesn't narrow it down.
It doesn't. No.
There's literally like it could be anything. So please enlighten me and our poor listener who has to be subjected to my awful speaking. What are we talking about? What is this episode going to be about, Alana?
So this legend, much like the Talipo, like I said, is one that I grew up with, but unlike the Talipo, which is a tall tale, but tis.
Oh. Sorry, I got very into character. I apologize. Please continue.
I was hoping that you'd have a reaction to that joke because it was one of my favorite ones. The whole it doesn't go up from here; it only goes down.
Yes, yes, my favorite kind of humor.
Oh my gosh! But yes, this topic we are talking about the Chupacabra today.
Hold on. We're talking about La Chupacabra. We're talking about the boy, the Chupacaduper himself, Mr. Goat Sucker Extraordinaire.
That him.
That's him.
That's him.
That be him.
That'd be him right there. Points to Spider-Man finger. Chupacabra.
It's you.
And him.
We are talking about the Chupacabra. Okay.
The Chupacabra.
All right. So this is what. Okay, so I have to completely once again derail this before we even begin.
Please.
So, much like quicksand and the Bermuda Triangle, I really thought the Chupacabra would be more relevant in my life.
I thought so too. I am gonna just level with you right now, and I was really hoping that you would say that because that's literally in my script right here. Is unlike the Talipo and anything else. Like I literally thought the Chupacabra was real. Like I believe that this creature was out there, like no different than like a dolphin or a lion or like a penguin. Like
Yeah.
this was just like, it was a fact of life that the Chupacabra existed and was out there. And one day I was
Yeah.
going to meet him. Like it was a matter of, it was not a matter of like if, it was when, like, right? Like,
Yes. No, I legit thought it was a real creature purely because, like, at least the stories I had with the Chupacabra growing up, it wasn't like, you've got to be, like, watch out for the Chupacabra. He's going to come into your house and steal your chickens. It was literally like, he's attacking our goats. Like, he has no effect on humans or all. He was just more of a menace than he was a threat. And so, like, I was just like, clearly, like, he's not a real cryptid. Like, he must be real.
Yeah.
He's not a real cryptid. He must be real because he's a menace.
Yeah.
Because cryptids are spoken to about with fear, much like quicksand in the Bermuda Triangle.
right?
And like it was just this menacing creature that just like stalked the plains of wherever in the deserts, in the mountains, wherever he is,
Wherever
I don't
he
know
may
where
be.
he is. Wherever he was an American cryptid. I didn't grow up in America, as Spookery listeners you've probably deciphered by now. I didn't grow up in America, but we had stories of the Chupacabra.
Yeah.
Mostly from children's television, which clearly shows the amount of fear that was put into the Chupacabra.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, he's just out there.
He's just out
and
there.
eventually, I'm gonna run into one. I'm gonna have to chase him away from my goats because at some point I will probably have goats, maybe.
Right? And they will be at risk because of this
Yeah.
Chupacabra.
Because of this Chupacabra.
Right. I'm so glad that is where we're starting this episode out, because I was so worried that I was going to have to like spend this whole episode convincing you of the existence of Chupacabras, and yet here you are already on board.
No, I'm
with me.
convinced.
We're perfect.
He's real.
Okay,
No,
cool.
this is not a cryptid. It's not a cryptid or a folklore. You failed. You failed this episode. It's not a cryptid or a folklore. This is a real boy.
I just did a whole episode on just an animal. Like I just picked a real animal.
It's just a creature.
How
just a
funny will
boy.
that be if they, like, a few years from now they actually are able to like confirm the existence and like they name a Chupacabra and we're just like, well, that episode.
Well, yeah, we'll have to create a new category where it's just called animals, but they're like kind of threatening.
Kind of spooky animals, maybe.
Yeah, kind of spooky animals.
We'll throw
like
bats in there for
emus.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, bats, emus, black cats. It's all that stuff. Like animals that are real, but that have weird stories around them.
It's interesting that all of these animals that we've listed, they had wings. We got a theme.
It's true. Well, I did say cats.
Oh, well, like, the cats have, many depictions.
It's true. I haven't met that every cat. Some cats might have wings.
Yeah, I'm like, in Baldur's Gate, I've met Gail's cat. She has cat, or she has
true.
cat. She has
Yeah.
cat. She has
She
wings.
has cat. Tara does have cat. You are
She
correct.
got
She
lots
does
of
have
cat.
wings. She has a lot of cat. She has a lot of wings. There's a lot of feathers. Good old Tara.
So-
Shout out to Baldur's Gate.
Shout out to Baldur's Gate.
This episode is not brought to you by Baldur's Gate.
I wish it was.
But God, I wish it was.
Spookery playthrough of Baldur's Gate one day.
Oh.
Might have to happen.
I'm kind of here for it. Dibs on Dark Urge.
Right? Oh, God. Oh, that is a future Spookery episode for sure.
There you go. Anyway, sorry to completely derail. Once again, I will return. I feel like this is a trend when it comes to like weird creatures. I did this with goblins. I'm doing it now. I think I did it with Tailypoke quite a bit. It's just like you give me an animal and I'm like, let me see how far off the rails we can take this bitch. Then I have to apologize every single time.
No apologies needed. That's why we have a podcast, ma'am, is to derail every conversation and record it. So
I'm here for it.
Here we are. I just hope people enjoy us as much as I do.
Well, I feel if they're listening to this episode, they probably do. So
Yeah, you made it this far.
Now
You're gone. You're gone for good.
You're here with us forever. You have to keep listening now, Spookery listener.
Right. So, well, I'm glad we started here. Like I said, knowing that you believe in the Chupacabra, this leads perfectly into my question for you is, just like we did with Tailypoke, you gotta tell me, when you close your eyes and picture the Chupacabra, what do you see?
I think there's no clear answer to this question because I really think it changes depending on like the context of the Chupacabra. And now arguably I don't know that many stories other than like there are farms and the Chupacabra like shows up.
Yeah.
And I think I imagine it kind of like it has like really like the hairless dogs in Coco.
Yep, I sure do. I sure do know those hairless dogs.
I think they're
in
called
Coco.
I think they're called the Zolo dogs.
Oh, yes, they sure are called the Zolo dogs. We're going to talk about them later.
Okay, great. I kind of imagine that they have that kind of skin texture where they're
Yep.
they're almost like Sphinx cats, where like they look like a naked chicken.
Yeah.
Like they look like a plucked chicken.
Wow.
But I imagine that they have like some sort of reptilian tail for some reason. They have like spines along their back.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you what kind of ears they have. I want to imagine that they have like pointed ears.
like the dog ears.
Not even, like almost like German Shepherd ears, but like hairless.
Okay.
Like maybe like large bat ears. I imagine large bat ears now that I'm thinking about it. I imagine a longest snout. Maybe like an iguana. Like it's got like a sturdy head.
So like kind of canine,
like,
but half reptilian.
Yeah, it's like a reptilian dog.
Okay.
I'm thinking of a lizard dog.
A lizard dog. I mean, that's pretty accurate to what I believe the Chupacabra looks like too.
I also believe that they are bipedal. They walk on their back legs, but their little arms are like little T-Rex arms.
Okay.
I believe that they have like little grubby, like they have clawed hands that are not very strong, but they're good enough for like gripping. They got grippers.
Okay. See, that's where we disagree on that. I believe that they have 4 legs. They walk. Like dogs.
You think that they're quadrupedal?
Yeah.
We're throwing out the big words right away.
Yeah, right? Like we're starting big here. That's so interesting. Okay. It's interesting how similar our depictions are, but at the same time, how different. And we will explore both of those depictions today in this episode.
I've just realized I've just described a kobold from Dungeons & Dragons.
You pretty much have. And that's a pretty, I think a lot of people would say that's a pretty, like, accurate description as to what they think, too. I think that's a very common conception.
I think I kind of, much like the goblins, I imagine a goblin. I imagine a little gremlin creature. Like that, once again, they're non-threatening. Like they're an inconvenience more than they are going to hurt me.
Yeah.
The little goat suckers.
Like you said, I've never been scared of them. They are not like scary creatures. They do not incite fear or horror the same way that other creatures do, where you're worried about being whisked off into the night. These are truly just, like you said, a menace. They're just a problem. They're just keep your goats inside at night if you don't want the Chupacabra to get them. That's the solution to this.
Right? It's like it's almost like a rat infestation where it's like I'm inconvenienced. Like the rats are no physical harm to myself.
Yeah.
I just don't want them in my space.
Exactly.
That's what a Chupacabra is.
That's exactly how I pictured it too. The term Chupacabra was coined by the Puerto Rican comedian Silverio Perez in 1995. For those like me that do not speak Spanish and did not pick up on this already, we kind of already talked about it, but the name Chupacabra is derived from the Spanish words chupar, which is to suck, and cabra, which is goat.
Oh.
So
I knew it was the goat sucker, but I didn't realize that
it actually translated to that.
It literally translated to goat sucker. I thought it was just like, it was almost like a derogatory term.
Right? Like you said, it was just like, yeah, what are you, a goat sucker? Yeah.
Much like we call like great horned owls goblins now.
Right.
It's like, those goblins!
No, 100%. It's so funny you say, because I didn't know that either, and I'm so, like, we're lucky that this creature was named in Spanish. Could you imagine we call it just the goat sucker? Like, it would not, the name, like, no one would take this seriously. Like,
I feel, yeah, it's like, we have like Mothman and Bigfoot. Like, we're like, English, we're not good at naming things. We have the Fresno Nightcrawlers.
Yeah.
And like, we're like, we don't come up with cool, but like, the Chupacabra has the coolest name for like the gremlianest creature. Like, it's just,
it has the coolest name. I love it. So, I just never knew it translated like
directly.
Perfectly like that. Yeah, so that was interesting.
It really translates to suck goats.
Yep, to suck goats.
To suck goats.
Which, again, if you didn't know, if you haven't listened to the beginning of this episode, is a dead giveaway to what this thing is, what its reputation is. It's described as a vampiric creature that sucks its victim's blood down to the last drop. Its victims mainly consist of livestock, such as goats, but also sheep and other domestic animals, never humans. So,
which is such an interesting thing. I feel like fighting a goat is much harder than fighting a human. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, if I had to choose between fighting a human and fighting a goat, my money's on the human. Like, I can probably I'm a decent sized woman. Like, I can take down another human pretty easily.
Right.
But like a goat, like, I'm not fucking with a goat. Goats don't care.
No.
They have not a care in their body. Like, they will fuck me up, and they will fuck themselves up to fuck me up.
100%. They're just like YOLO, but also like I'm going in full force.
Yep. They're just like they are born with weapons attached to their heads,
and they know how to use them.
And they're born knowing how to use them. Like from the womb, they're just like, I will headbutt you until you submit, or we both die.
There's a reason that goats are associated with satanic, like, rituals and things like that, you know? Like, they have a reputation because of that. We know.
Yeah, and I think it's really brave that the Chupacabra chooses to fight goats. It looks at goats and looks at humans. I'm like, here's a really easy part of prey. But that motherfucker looks like he could tango.
Right?
And he decides to tango every single time. And for some reason, the Chupacabra wins and it still doesn't want to go for the human.
Still. Right? Yeah.
Maybe we just taste bad.
You never know. Yeah, we just might be too gamey for the Chupacabra. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we're just too full of shit.
Too full of shit. But anyway, this one detail of the Chupacabra is the only real consistent thing about the Chupacabra, the fact that it sucks blood. Other than that, kind of how we're describing it now, it kind of changes as, you know, most myths, legends, cryptids do, depending on the region. This one changes kind of drastically, though. So kind of going back to how you were describing it between more of like a lizard canine thing. I mean, some people take it as far as like it's described as almost like an alien type creature.
Okay.
So we'll kind of go through the history of Chupacabra and watch how it kind of changes and how not only did society impact how the Chupacabra was perceived, but how the Chupacabra changed society.
Oh,
So
this is a deep metaphor.
right, yeah. The Chupacabra, everything
As
comes back
above,
to the
so
Chupacabra.
below. It's all Chupacabra.
It's Chupacabra all the way down.
All the way down. It's like fucking like the spaceman meme. It was like, what? It was all Chupacabra. Always was.
Always was. That's a good place to start this episode. So kind of going back to how the Chupacabra's depiction and how it's perceived definitely depends on kind of where you're located geographically.
Right.
And I think it's kind of naive of me to think that like, oh man, like only like Arizona and like, you know, Mexico have like heard of the Chupacabra, because like it's actually a pretty like well-known cryptid in a lot of parts of the world.
I was definitely not in America when I first heard about the Chupacabra. I think, where was I? I think I was in the Middle East at the time.
Wow, interesting.
Now, arguably, my first definition of the Chupacabra, I feel like this is really early to reveal this information because I'm going to save it to the end, but I feel like I have to reveal it now. My first exposure to the Chupacabra was an episode of Dexter's Laboratory.
Really?
Yeah, there was a whole episode of the Chupacabra. I think it was like the only word that they spoke. It was like one of those like really silent, like stylized episodes.
Yeah.
And it was like El Chupacabra, or like or La Chupacabra, and like it was this Dexter like hunting down this creature, and then it turns out it was like an escaped lab experiment. And it was his pet Chupi, I think it was called. And he brought it home.
Stop reading ahead. Oh my god. All right,
Sorry.
no more of that. We gotta just jump into this episode.
I revealed my hand too early. I should have held on to it. I should have kept it in my hand. I'm so sorry.
Chupi. Oh my god. Yeah, we'll come back to Chupi.
Okay.
That's so funny. That's so wild that that's one of your first memories of Chupacabra.
I think it's literally my first. I was like, wow, this obviously must be a real creature because Dexter's Laboratory was referencing.
Right? Yeah. No, there's a few parts of that we'll come back to specifically.
Okay.
So, oddly enough, despite how kind of like widely known the Chupacabra is, it's still pretty like new for a cryptid, and it's kind of still undiscovered. Like there's a lot of people like here just in my hometown that I've been like, yeah, the Chupacabra, and they're like, who? What? And I'm like, huh? How have you never heard of this? Like even my own husband was kind of like, I don't know anything about it. Like I was like, what do you picture the Chupacabra? And he's like, I don't know.
How?
Right? How? I don't know.
How
have you gone your whole life without hearing about it?
I feel like it's a much like it was relevant in my childhood. I feel like it should like you guys should be like whispering it in fear on the streets in Arizona.
I was as a child. I just clearly didn't know him, and he was out of the loop. So he didn't realize how much danger he was in.
No, yeah, I mean, he could have had his goat sucked at any given moment.
He could have, and it would have been terrible.
It would have been. What would he have used for dowry? How many goats were you worth, Alana?
I don't want to talk about it. That's a whole other episode. Okay.
I think you're worth at least 6 snakes.
Oh wow, 6 snakes.
6 snakes.
Wow. That's even better.
Yeah.
Oh.
They're in my pocket. If you get that reference, how did you get that reference?
How? Yeah.
How did you get that reference? But if
Well,
you
I hope you
did,
do.
wow, now we can be best friends.
True.
If my best friend's goats get sucked, you can be my best friend. And you get that reference.
Oh my god. God, I promise no goats were sucked in the making of this podcast. None. Not one.
Not one goat was harmed in the making of the Chupacabra.
I can't say that.
Okay,
I mean, I don't know. Sounds like a lot of goats. We haven't even got into how many goats. There's a lot of goats.
Well, no goats were harmed in the making of this episode.
In this episode. So the first reports of attacks only actually started kind of being reported back to like the mid-1970s. And their first eyewitness reports of the Chupacabra were only as early as the 1990s and like early 2000s.
Really? He's a baby boy.
He's a baby compared to other cryptids, like, especially compared to the Loch Ness Monster, which dates back to like 565 AD.
Yeah.
Or even Sasquatch, which has sightings back like to the late 1800s, like even still newer, but still pretty old.
Yeah.
Both of these, they're both episodes for another night, but
yes.
Chupacabra itself is just such a baby, this new kid on the block.
It really is, but I'm like, I almost like what, like I put him in the same reference as like Loch Ness Monster and like Bigfoot, especially in Bigfoot, like they're very like on par with each other in my head.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm like, but he's such a baby boy.
He's such a baby boy, but it's crazy how much like respect he's apparently garnered for himself. Like you said, that he's put on this pedestal with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Like for me, that's very interesting for a cryptid to be. That's a very high like.
Yeah, like Chupacabra's like top 5 of like, at least in my eyes, like cryptids.
Yeah.
Like it listed like the top 5 like most famous cryptids, like Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, Chupacabra, Mothman, and some other one that I haven't mentioned.
Right.
And it's I don't know. He's a little bit. I mean, arguably Mothman is also a baby boy. I don't feel like Mothman.
That's true.
If that's also once again for an episode for another time.
Well,
But
yeah.
I think Mothman's younger than Chupacabra.
Interesting. Well, like you said, we'll address that in a future episode.
We will.
But
Or maybe in the postmortem.
of the vast number of cryptids out there, Chupacabra is definitely one of the rare ones for sure, which is just so interesting because, like you said, we both grew up thinking this thing was real. So it's interesting that this thing kind of just came out right as we were like coming into existence ourselves.
Yeah.
And-
He's like our older brother.
yeah. So I don't know, it's just really interesting. But I do think this kind of plays a role in why more people haven't heard of him is just because of how new he is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Again, I just thought Chupacabras were more common knowledge, but
Yeah, I definitely, I was under the impression, but I was clearly mistaken. And that's why we have a podcast, to educate. Not just our listeners, but ourselves.
yes, exactly. So the history of the Chupacabra, the earliest reports that I was able to kind of find were written about by an author named Scott Corrales in his book, Chupacabras and Other Mysteries.
Okay.
The setting starts in a small town of Moca, Puerto Rico in 1975.
Okay.
And we'll kind of just go through each date by date of each sighting, kind of in those early times.
Okay.
February 25th, a local newspaper reported on a series of strange animal deaths that had been discovered. 15 cows, 3 goats, 2 geese, and a pig were found with puncture marks on their bodies, and every single one completely drained of their blood.
Wow.
I'm sure authorities were unsure of what to make of this, but the only victims being animals, I'm also sure that they were not too invested, like, on really what happened. They're kind of like, that's kind of weird, but thank God it wasn't a person, and went on about their business. Mm-hmm. So, the police deemed that the farm animals were attacked by dogs, though the newspaper dubbed the unknown threat El Vampiro de Moca, the Moca vampire.
The Moca vampire. Is Moca spelled M-O-C-A or M-O-C-H-A?
M-O-C-A.
M-O-C-A. Okay, I was like, if it was named after a coffee, I was about to be like, wow. The caramel latte vampire.
I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Like,
yeah, I think so. Moca.
yeah.
Moca is.
I said it the way I would assume, but I also don't know because I mispronounce everything. So please tell me if I'm saying anything wrong.
It was just I was curious if there was an H in there because I was thinking for some reason like of a vanilla caramel latte, and I had to dispel that immediately from my head, which is not it was not fair to Mocha.
No. But the deaths continued. So yeah, the death count had risen to over 30 animals, with one of the latest victims being a cow. The animal was found dead with penetrating wounds on its skull, as well as scratches around these wounds.
Its skull, like it went for the head,
It
bit down. That's such a bad place to bite.
I mean, you don't know what chupacabras do. You don't know how their mouths are shaped. At this point, no one had seen one.
It's true, but also just like I feel like there's fleshier parts that you can bite on that have like
for sure
easier access to blood. Speaking as an addict vampire myself, there's easier places to bite.
It's true, but cows are feisty, and I'm sure it didn't go down without a fight, so it might have just been a missed target. You know what I mean? Like,
now I'm just imagining this cow like really upset and like flinging its head around, and there's just this chupacabra like holding.
And it finally just grabs onto its head, and it's like, oh no, it got me, like a spider. And
it latched onto the head of the cat. The cow's just like flinging about. This thing is just being wailed around. That's all I can imagine now. I'm like, this poor guy.
This poor guy. Are you talking about the cow or the chupacabra? They're both having a bad time.
They're both having a bad time. This was a terrible mismatch for both of them. Like, I just want everyone go home and take a nap.
Everyone should stop. Just stop and go home and take a nap.
Chupacabra, release. Cow, go home. Just no more. No más.
Yeah. So that poor cow had a bad time.
Yeah, it really did.
So speculation kind of began to rise even more that this may not be normal dog attacks.
Okay. What gave it away? Was it the skull bites? Was that
right?
Was that what gave it away?
They're like, this is a little weird.
It's like, I don't think dogs would do this. And I'm like, someone was like, I don't know, I've seen some dogs. I've seen some dogs.
Definitely. That's not quite consistent with most dog attacks, I'm sure. Though I don't know the details of most dog attacks.
No, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, a lot of dog attacks related to humans do go for the face, but that's usually because the human is being a menace and getting their face too close to the dog, and the dog is uncomfortable. It's usually the first place they bite rather than... Which arguably you could say that about a cow. Like if cows are naturally curious, so I guess like if a cow was like sniffing and it stuck its head in a chupacabra's business, the cat was like, I'm just gonna bite. I'm gonna bite you.
Yeah, like you said, it's just, there's a weird creature in the corner of the barn, cow goes up to sniff and investigate, and it just bites it right on the face.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know what?
Sounds kind of plausible. I don't know.
It does. It does.
I don't know. But either way, speculation started to stir. Another local by the name of Louis Torres and his 2 children, his son and daughter, had witnessed something that takes this kind of in a weird direction.
Okay.
They described something they say kind of looked like the lights on a police cruiser. However, instead of being near the ground, being on the ground, they explained that these lights were spinning in the sky just above the outskirts of the town Moca.
Are they implying aliens?
They might be implying aliens.
Are we implying that the goblins are back and they're eating our animals?
It's so funny you say that because it was at this point, the minute it started to kind of go in that direction, I literally thought of the goblins too. I'm just like, wow, that's the similarities. Yeah, they're eerie.
And everyone got really aggressive and started hallucinating, and they were silver, and they were making ultrasonic noises, and it was just owls. It was owls the
just
whole time.
great horned owls. God, those dang owls.
Those dang owls. God damn it.
The connection of this sighting with the Moca vampire was that the object had been flying over the fields where some of these oddly killed animals had been discovered. So that's kind of how they linked these 2 things together. Is it just happened kind of near each other.
2 weird
which is
things
enough.
happened in this town, and they must clearly be connected. What are the odds that 2 weird things would happen unrelated to each other?
Zero possibilities. They have to be related. They do. That's just how life works.
Okay.
So, naturally, theories shifted to those of the unknown creature kind of being some sort of alien, just like you said.
Right.
It's weird lights, deaths, they're like aliens. It's gotta be aliens.
They're biting our cows' heads. They're biting them. They're in the spaceships. I don't think anything that would go for the head and not the throat and is smart enough to pilot a spaceship.
I mean, they just don't, maybe they have different anatomy than us. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't
know.
I'm still imagining them with little grubby hands. I'm like, these are not creatures that have the wherewithal to pilot a flying object covered in blinking lights. In my personal opinion, these are not like the bullet dodging goblins that attacked Hopkinsville. These are little grubby kobolds, and they're biting our cows.
Agreed. That's how I see them too. But you never know. You never know. There's different kinds of intelligence in the world. I don't know.
You know,
we've sent chimps to space. I mean, who knows? Maybe this was some intelligent race sending their chimps to space, and they crash landed on our planet.
Yeah, maybe Chupacabras are the goblins' chimps in space.
I don't know. We'll come back to that theory later.
If it is revealed to be that way, I will jump off a diving board and eat my own shoe. Like, I simply cannot with this.
We'll come back to that later. Put it on the shelf, put it in your pocket, wherever it's got to go, so you don't think about it until at least 30 more minutes from now.
I've already forgotten. What were we talking about?
Perfect. We're talking about March 15th, 1975.
Love that.
Another farmer lost 34 chickens to the Moca vampire during a single night.
That's a lot of chickens.
That's probably all his chickens. I don't know how many chickens he had, but that's probably all his chickens.
It's probably all of his chickens. If not, it's a vast majority of his chickens, but also could be a coyote.
Could very easily be a coyote, yeah. But do coyotes drink their blood of their victims and leave the carcasses? That's...
I mean, I've seen some pretty malicious coyotes. We had a coyote that attacked our neighborhood, and it killed a bunch of cats. Sorry, this is a sad story. Trigger warning for animals. We had a coyote, and it ate a bunch of cats, but it didn't eat them. It just attacked them, and then left their bodies in the road in, like, a weird, like, display.
So this could be a coyote.
It could be a coyote. Sometimes coyotes are just, like, they're just mean. They're just like, I did that, and I'm gonna make you, like, watch. And, like, I don't know, maybe he got thirsty. Coyotes are weird. They're very strange animals.
Yeah.
They're like the dumb wolves.
The dumb wolves. the weird cousins of wolves that are
the smaller that the canine family gets, the dumber they get. Like wolves, they're like peak hunting animals, like they got a strategy, and then they come the coyotes, and they're a little bit dumber, but like they're like the pranksters of like the family. And then there are the foxes who are just too busy screaming to get anything done. And then you have the chihuahuas, and they're there, and then they're there,
and they're there. That's all we need. They're there.
And they're there.
The little papitos.
Little chupacabra. Chupacabrito.
And we'll see where Chupacabra ranks in that by the end of the episode. We'll see.
Yes, I imagine that they're somewhere between foxes and coyotes. I feel like a coyote is bigger than a Chupacabra.
Yeah. Well, sometime between March 15th and March 18th, Luis Torres, the man who had witnessed the strange lights before, had killed 2 Puerto Rican boas.
Now there's snakes involved.
Now there's snakes involved. Each snake was reported to be unusually large, spanning over 6 feet long.
Oh, he hasn't been to Florida.
Right.
With our 27-foot pythons.
This was back in the day, okay? Like 75 snakes weren't that big yet. Okay. They were coming up.
Yeah,
okay?
they didn't come with that size. It's like a flat screen TV. They only came in like 12 inches back then. Now they're like 62 inch and they go across the wall.
That's how it works. Yeah, these are 75 snakes, okay? Give them some slack. They were big at the time. It depends on the time. You have to look at it through the lens of someone who lived in 75.
We hadn't invented the 8K snakes yet.
So, because of these 6 feet long snakes, local news media was kind of quick to blame these strange animal deaths on these snakes, claiming that it was just, one of the snakes.
Yeah.
And now
I think it's also very plausible.
Right? And now that the snakes were dead, logically, the attacks should stop, right?
Well, that implies that there were only 2 snakes, because, like, there's always a third snake.
There's always a third snake. You gotta watch out for the third snake.
There's always a third snake, guys. If you find 2 snakes, there's probably a third.
Right? And because they weren't looking out for that third snake, by March 18th, 2 more goats belonging to a farmer by the name of Hector Vega were found drained of their blood on his farm.
Oh my God.
Similarly to the other victims, these goats had puncture marks on their neck. The next morning, Hector had discovered that the same thing came back that night again, finding 7 more goats injured, 10 more killed, and a further 10 goats that were just flat out gone.
Oh my God.
They were just missing.
This is not one Chupacabra. This is a pack of Chupacabras. I feel like one Chupacabra would struggle to eat like 3 goats.
See, that's where you're wrong. It's the third snake. You gotta watch out for the third snake.
It's the third snake.
You already forgot, and this is how the third snake gets you.
That is. You just say when you assume that the snakes are gone. There's a third snake. There's always a third snake. A third snake could absolutely kill 27 goats, though.
And just swallow, like you said, 10 of them. Just take them out. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Honestly. It's like 10 for now, 10 for later, and 10 just because I'm feeling spicy.
Right? And then this snake, being 6 foot at the time, decided, I'm going to take my stuff to Florida. And by the time it got there, it digested all the goats. It was a 20 foot.
It grew a foot for every goat that it took.
This math checks out. This math checks out. I did a lot of research for this episode, okay? And that's how snakes work.
That's how snakes work.
That's how snakes work.
Every time they eat a goat, they grow 1 foot.
It's just the truth. Don't look it up.
Sorry, not to be disrespectful to the 27 goats that may or may not have lost their lives that night. I'm sorry.
Our hearts go out for them. Pour one out for the goats.
Pour one out for the goats.
So it was by this point that the Senate Agricultural Commission took real notice of this problem. After speaking with locals about these attacks further, the senator asked the superintendent of police to redouble his efforts, quote unquote.
Yeah, he's clearly not doing anything. The third snake's out there.
Double him. Go get that snake. And go. If you already doubled him, redouble him. That's what he said.
Fool. A double of 0 is still 0.
It's still 0.
The maths, check it out, boys. And he was like, I will triple my efforts, but it was still 0.
It's still 0. It wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough.
And
that third snake is in Florida by now.
Literally. So despite these increased efforts of, 0 times 3, by April of that year, reports were just popping up all over the island of Puerto Rico. They were everywhere.
I was about to ask, like, all of this is happening in Puerto Rico. Yeah. Like, this poor island, like, they have lost, like, probably 80% of their livestock at this point. And just by this third snake who has now fled the country and is in Florida. And is just... and the police are just like, it's not a problem because no humans were harmed in the making of this episode.
Oh, right? It's fine. It's just goats.
It's just goats.
So yeah, despite the increased efforts, by April of that year, reports were just popping up all over the island of Puerto Rico. So, May 13th, in the town of Corrales, a man reports a strange encounter with a round-headed, hairy-tailed, and large-eyed creature. It growled like a small dog. Meanwhile, in Moca, 3 roosters, a rabbit, and 5 goats were found dead, once again completely drained of all fluid.
This town doesn't have much livestock left.
No.
This one town is being, like, just destroyed by this third snake.
Decimated. Like, their entire livestock, like, supply, like you said, is just being wiped out. And I can understand that after a while, like, that's why they're like, hey, double these efforts. Like, we got to figure this out because people will start to go hungry eventually. So, like, we do have to figure this out.
Yeah, like this is people's livelihoods on the line. Like you lose all of your chickens and all of your goats and all of your cows very quickly. It's like, what do you have? Like that's your entire livelihood just gone because one snake could not be caught.
Exactly, just because that third snake. So, not only did the killings continue, but so did the sightings and reports of UFOs as well.
Of course it did, because when it rains, it pours. And not only is there cryptids just eviscerating this town, but they're aliens.
Exactly. May 17th, in the skies over Rio Piedras and San Juan, more strange UFOs were seen. This report described large glowing balls of light, house-sized glowing crafts, and a dark object with a red light on top performing strange maneuvers. Which, this is going to be so fun to come back to and talk about one day in another UFO case. It turns perfectly into some other things.
Okay.
But we're talking about, for some reason, Chupacabras right now in UFOs.
Clearly.
So
everyone knows that Chupacabra is Spanish for UFO.
Literally.
It
it really does blow my mind that these things intersect so much.
I mean, I guess, they're like, it has to be connected because this is like, we're small town Puerto Rico. Like, why would we have, like, this amount of, it's like gravity
falls,
falls, right?
Be?
Like, it all has to be related. Like, there's no way in hell it could be 200 weird, like, things. It has to be one related thing.
Yep. And I understand people wanting to find a reason, you know what I mean? Like, we try to make sense of our surroundings. There's weird shit that happens every single day, and how do you explain it? Sometimes you don't, and you still, like, you need an answer to sleep at night, so you find an answer.
Yeah, it's
and
true.
this was the closest answer.
Yeah, I would have gone for gas leak personally, but, that was just me.
That's just, we all look at things different.
Call me small-minded, I guess. I wasn't thinking big enough.
So, June 25th rolls around, and another 25 farm animals were found dead with their blood drained. And just a short time after that, 14 fighting roosters were also found in the same condition.
Not the fighting roosters, it's going for our fighting animals now.
Yeah, so not only are, like you said, like the farm animals themselves are get's attacked, but just any animal. No animal's safe.
No.
Humans, fine. Animals, nah.
They might be coming for that third snake next.
The snake, you said, oh my god, the snake is a victim too. Then you know something's really out there.
The snakes are going for the snakes now.
Oh goodness, it's a snake eat snake world.
It really is. It really is. They call it an Ouroboros. It's beautiful. You weren't ready for that one, were you?
No. Sometimes I don't know how to get us back on track after these snake talks. I'm like, how do I tie the snake in? How do I... I barely know how to tie the UFOs in, and now I have to tie stakes into this whole thing.
You just have to tie the stakes together, and you call it an Ouroboros, and it's a good day.
Oh my god.
I got him. We got him, chat.
She got me. I can't argue with that logic. Well, after all that commotion, things kind of started to die down. Okay. Sightings began to just trickle out a little bit.
This is when I left and went to Florida.
This is when it left and led to Florida, and by July of 1975, they had pretty much stopped completely.
Okay.
For now.
Right. For now.
So, going back to what I said before about the first reports of chupacabras being debated, kind of depends, right? Like, no one has seen a chupacabra up to this point.
Yeah, they just saw the aftermath.
Exactly. So, that's definitely, I think, the reason. But the deaths and circumstances around these deaths definitely feel Chupacabra-y, with no sightings of the actual culprit, though. I totally can understand why, like, the later sightings in 95 and the 2000s are, like, the actual official Chupacabra sightings.
Right.
It makes sense.
Yeah, so. Like, it's almost like, you know what it reminds me of a little bit? It reminds me of, like, cicadas, where, like, they come out, and, like, they populate, they breed, and they do whatever. They're just a menace. And they make a lot of noise. And then they disappear, and they're, like, asleep for 13 years.
Yeah.
And then they come back up, and then they go back to sleep. And it's almost like, that feels like that wave. Where we just get, like, every 20 years, we just get a wave of Chupacabra, and then they go back into sleep.
I kind of love that, though. That would be a great book, actually, about this creature that, like you said, just goes to sleep. And
I think it's called It by Stephen King.
Huh.
I'm sorry. So, spoiler alert for It by Stephen King, but that's what it does. It like comes out, it feeds, and then it goes to sleep. And that's why, like, the two.
Now I can never watch that movie. Wow. Thanks a lot.
I'm so sorry. I haven't seen those movies either, if it makes you feel any better.
Well, no, we should watch them. We should watch them one day.
I feel like we probably should. I hear Skarsgård did a great job.
Yeah. I would love to watch.
Yeah. I heard the movie is better than the book.
I have another movie that we're going to be adding to our list that we will talk about at the end here in just a little bit.
Is it called Chupacabra the movie?
Don't read ahead, man.
Okay.
So, in all of these reports that we've discussed so far, there really hasn't been anything to indicate that it's been an animal specifically. I mean, there was no prints, no fur, and not even like blood left behind. I mean, this animal attacked, right? And even like we were talking about the cow putting up a fight, there was no signs of like damage to another animal around. It was only damage.
Only the targeted animals.
Yeah, only they took.
Does that imply that the Chupacabra can fly?
Well, no one's seen it yet, so we don't know. But it at least has a vehicle that can fly, because how do you explain those lights in the sky?
Owls.
Freaking owls.
It's the great horned owl.
But that is what also makes the element of the UFO so interesting, though, because if this was an alien attack, that kind of would explain, like, the lack of evidence of, like, a normal, like, animal. But, again, like, going back, like, why animal blood? What alien's coming down and just taking animal blood?
I mean, you could argue why humans only eat animals. It's like maybe we don't like eating other sentient creatures. We don't like eating animals that, like, have a semblance of intelligence.
Okay.
And maybe the Chupacabra has that sort of line where, like, I associate the Chupacabra as kind of dumb, but it's smart enough to realize, like, maybe it's sentient enough to realize, like, it doesn't want to eat sentient animals.
Okay. It's interesting where the Chupacabra. It's interesting where the Chupacabra.
The Chupacabra. The Chupagadupra.
We're losing it.
We are.
My gosh. It's interesting, like you said, where an animal, I guess, if it is even capable of thinking as such, like where it would place itself on that food chain. Like,
yeah. Like, I don't know, like, because we as humans, we have issues with eating things that we identify as sentient. Like,
so is that why it's not eating us, though? Is because we're too sentient?
I mean, this is just me. Like, once again, I don't know. We're only so many pages into the script. We're still young. But, like, I know we as humans struggle with that. Like, if we identify an animal as intelligent, we struggle to see it just as food. Like, there has to be, like, a level of separation where, like, this animal is dumb enough to eat. Like, that's why we don't like eating dogs. Yeah. Because we identify a certain level of intelligence to dogs that we don't necessarily attribute to chickens. Or we don't attribute it to, and, like, I'm not saying that they are that, all animals have their own degree of intelligence.
It's just the propaganda around these animals.
Right. The dog propaganda is just superb. Like, their PR team is so good. They nailed it. The chickens and cows, however, they're failing. Unless you count Chick-fil-A, in which case that's just anti-cow chicken propaganda. They're just eat more chicken. Yeah. Episode is not sponsored by Chick-fil-A. I personally don't eat there.
No, not the Spookery sisters.
No. But I wonder, Chupacabra, one sentient creature to another. Do you struggle to eat humans because you identify us as too I don't want to call us smart, because we're not necessarily the smartest species, but we have a level of sentience that you struggle to identify as food and not as creature.
Right? Like, as food, yeah. That's interesting. It's an interesting theory.
Yeah. Just keep us thinking,
Keep it thinking.
Food for thought, quite literally.
God. For me, if these events did occur at all, I do think the UFO stuff and the Chupacabra stuff is completely unrelated. I think, like you said, it's just two weird things happening at the same time, and this is coming from a girl who believes in both.
Yes, so, I personally believe that there would have been, like, a weirdness identifier mark, much like Gravity Falls. There's just an atmosphere, there's an energy that's pulling the weird towards it, rather than all the weird being connected.
I agree with that, 100%. So, with that being said, that brings us to the first real sightings of the Chupacabra. So, the strange animal deaths in Puerto Rico, like I said before, they stopped for a while, but kind of picked up again in 1995, when, once again, another group of animals was found dead, blood completely drained from their bodies. This group... El Vampiro, he's back. There's 8 goats. This time, though, they had 3 puncture wounds on their chest, which was kind of unique.
On their chest?
On their chest,
and
3 of them.
There are easier places to bite, but okay. And 3 puncture marks. They're evolving. They're beginning to believe.
Yeah, what do you make
For every 27 goats they eat, they grow a tooth.
This was, like, also kind of, peak satanic panic, too. So I think people kind of naturally, at first, thought, like, a satanic cult was to blame.
It's the devil.
Yeah, I think at first it was kind of written off as just kind of like, oh, okay, we'll just file that under the satanic panic and just kind of move on.
Yes. Much like smoking weed in your parents' basement and playing Dungeons and Dragons. Biting creatures and leaving 3 puncture wounds, very normal. The teenagers are up to no good.
They're just teens being teens.
Teens being teens.
It was not soon after this, though, that eyewitness reports started to surface of a strange creature. The first really big documented one was made by a woman named Madeline Tolentino.
Beautiful name.
Right? It really is. She and her mother claimed to have seen this monster in front of their house in Canovanas, Puerto Rico.
Okay. Once again, Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Madeline was the first to give a detailed description of this blood-sucking beast, and her description was captured by Jorge Martin, one of Puerto Rico's most famous UFO researchers and writers. We'll post an image of his drawing on, Instagram with the rest of our photos and stuff like that on the website. But you can also find it on Google. I also found a similar image, but this one with written caption on it as well. So the artist's name was a bit hard to read. I believe it was Miguel N. something. I don't want to speculate on the name further and get it wrong, but if you are listening and you can read that full name, or if you just know it, please let me know.
Yes. Well, we can put a bounty out. All right, Spookery, this is your first Spookery sanctioned bounty. If you can identify what this name says, we'll give you a sweet, sweet shout out at the postmortem.
Heck yeah, we will. So, on this picture of the and with the captions, it read, phosphorescent, bright-colored, spine-like appendages that run over the body from head to the back.
Okay.
Spine's colors change constantly, red to blue to yellow to green to orange to violet.
This is not a stealthy creature.
No.
It's a little
like
rainbow
having
worm.
a disco. Yeah. Like,
right?
It's just like, look at me out here.
No, look at me. I'm coming for your goats. He's jazz handing as well.
That's I
am
imagine
the goblins.
With all the lights and everything. He's like, I am the Chupacabra. Body covered by fine gray fur with darker spots.
How is it? Fine gray fur, multicolored, phosphorescent. There's a lot of conflicting descriptions going on here.
Strong feet with claws.
Okay.
4 to 5 feet tall. Big slanted eyes.
Okay.
Small holes for nostrils.
That's rude, but all right.
Lipless mouth. No ears. Only auditive holes.
Okay, it's very reptilian.
Thin arms with 3-fingered claws.
Little grubby hands.
Yeah.
Got little grabbers.
And it was signed by Madeline Tolentino, 9/12/95.
Okay, so other than the color, this is very similar to how I described the Chupacabra.
It almost like you said, like a little guy. He's just a little guy with little arms and.
It's just, yeah, he's got little grabbers. He's got a flat snoot. I couldn't tell you what ears, but I'm leaning. I leaned eerily.
Yeah.
That's not a word. I leaned towards the ears.
Yeah.
But it's the coloring that's really throwing me off. I'm like, this creature has never been seen. It's like stealthy, and you're trying to tell me that this thing is brightly colored.
Just the spines, it sounds like, but interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It sounds like a reject Disney mascot.
Kind of does, yeah. So this description is interesting for a few reasons, some of which we already discussed, but one big one, though, that researcher Benjamin Radford pointed out is that the description is eerily similar to the monster from the 1995 sci-fi horror flick Species, which had just premiered earlier that same July.
You're being warped by modern media.
So we will post a picture of that next to, like, kind of side by side for reference so you can see, but there definitely is an uncanny resemblance between the two.
Do you have a photo perchance that I can take a look at?
Yes, I do. Perchance, I do.
Oh, perchance she does.
Photos.
Oh my god.
That's the Species monster.
I hate it.
Yeah, it almost kind of looks like an alien-esque type, like, monster,
Why does it have titties?
Because it's supposed to be a sexy alien. It's played by a sexy female lead, okay? And you're supposed to be scared and want to fuck it at the same time. I don't know.
I feel like this is, the hit movie Alien?
Yeah.
This feels like a sexualized version of that.
I've never seen this movie, but I would like to watch it with you. Again, we're adding this to the list. It's not the one that we're talking about at the very end, because that's great too. But
yes.
I think Species needs to be on our list, just so we can talk about it in postmortem and know how either scared / turned on we were by this creature.
How's its inventory system? You know what the vibe I'm getting from this movie? I feel like it's going to be a lot like 13 Ghosts. For some reason, the way that this image is, it looks like that kind of cinema where it's just maddening, where like things are happening at very, very quick and very fast cuts of movie, and you're just going to get a lot of titties, an unnecessary amount of titties.
I mean, who's to say?
Well, eyes to say that you get an unnecessary amount of titty, and yeah. Although I will say that the makeup does look good, but yeah.
We will definitely, like I said, post that pic so that we can let everyone reference it, because it is interesting how they're similar they are. But
yes,
tuck that into your hat, put it away for later. Yeah. Keep that on the shelf with all the other things.
Yeah.
I think this is a great spot to kind of like formally introduce Benjamin Radford before we continue, because he is definitely a notable character on this journey and in just general, like the history of the Chupacabra. Benjamin Radford is an American writer, investigator, and skeptic who has covered all sorts of interesting and fun topics, including Dyatlov's Pass.
Oh, great case. It's on my spreadsheet.
I know. I'm excited for you to tell me about it one day.
I love Dyatlov's Pass. It's a great story.
I can't wait. I hope that one comes up soon. That's a good one.
You know, we still have plenty episodes in the season.
It's true. You never know where this season's going to take us.
It's true.
But yeah, covered Dyatlov's Pass, Santa Fe Courthouse Ghost, and of course the Chupacabra.
Santa Fe Courthouse Ghost. I don't know that one.
But maybe I'll have to cover that if I get hauntings.
Oh my god.
Let's see. Because I really like the way that Benjamin Radford's covers stuff, actually. So like I hope that if I do get one of these topics, I hope he's covered it too, so that I can use his stuff. Because yeah, he's a really smart and interesting guy, and he's very dedicated to finding answers, finding the truth. I have his book currently on hold at the library, so I'm excited to read that and hopefully have some more things to talk about in the postmortem for the season.
She's just doing all the research, boys. Oh my god.
I'm really into Chupacabras this year. Because I haven't read his book yet, I did read of some of his articles that he's published online, and I watched some of his videos. I really, like I said, I enjoyed the way that he kind of used topics and just how dedicated he really is. He's a big source of the material that I used for the script. So big shout out to Benjamin Radford.
Nice.
Yeah.
This one pouring one out for Benjamin Radford.
He's still alive.
Oh, sorry. I'll still pour one out. It's okay. We can hold a seance. We can still have one.
We can still pour one.
He's invited. If he shows up, even better. If he doesn't, then it's an official seance. We'll pull his spirit right out of his body. But then respectfully put it back.
I hope he doesn't listen to this episode. He's gonna be like, she did such a bad job of covering this. She didn't even read my book before she did it.
I sure didn't. I'm so sorry.
God. No, I'm talking about me. This is my responsibility to research. You're along for the ride.
No, I'm sorry that I thought you were dead, Benjamin Radford. Please don't die before this episode comes out. I'm so sad.
No, we're going to come back to him later. That's why I introduced him now, because I'm like, he just played such a key role in the research of Chupacabras. Like, so we're coming back to his adventures later.
Gotcha.
While these earlier sightings of the Chupacabra all seem to depict the creature as more alien-esque, the newer sightings, kind of still some in Puerto Rico, but now also spreading to other parts of the world, they seem to differ, describing the creature to be smaller, standing on 4 feet instead of 2.
Interesting.
Generally resembling a hairless or mangy canine of sorts, which
is
exactly how we said we depicted it earlier, which just, it makes so much sense, right? Like, these things kind of go hand in hand.
I still think he's bipedal. I still think that Chupacabra walks on 2 legs.
That's fair.
But I have it like T-Rex pose, where he's like very like tail heavy, so he's like leaning forward as if he could be like a quadruped. Yeah. But he's got his little grabbers.
He's got his little grabbers. All right.
He's got grabbing. He's got grabbing to do.
He needs those hands. Okay, goats aren't gonna suck themselves.
No, he's gotta hold on, like, especially if they're whipping around. If he's biting on the heads, he's gotta hold on for dear life.
He really does. So, going back to 1995, right after those 8 sheep were found dead overnight with wounds in their chests in Puerto Rico, that year, over 200 more reports of sightings, along with 150 reports of inexplicably dead animals, were reported.
That's like, you say there was 200 and then an additional 150. These things really are like cicadas. Like they fed out the wazoo in Puerto Rico in the 70s.
Yep.
And then they took a long 20-year-long nap.
Yep.
And then they came back up and they were like, we're going to be so many places, boys. There's not even enough goats in Puerto Rico anymore for us. We have to move. Gosh. We got to move, boys.
And like you said, there's not even enough goats. So they spread. At that point, they were going after chickens, sheep, rabbits, any farm animals that you had. Like, it literally did not matter. They did not discriminate. They're like, you got farm animals? Well, take those farm animals. And they were killing them.
Oh, my God.
It was bad.
It was a bad year to be in livestock.
Yeah. It's a bad year.
It really was.
So bad, the mayor of Canavanas, Puerto Rico, decided to take drastic action.
Did he double his efforts?
He doubled his efforts. He received international attention for what he did and got support from local police when he began to send out weekly search parties equipped with a caged goat as live bait.
What?
What's a better way to catch a chupacabra than with its favorite snack?
I'm speechless. I don't know how to process that information.
He was like, yep, you police, here's a goat. You go out there. Luckily, it doesn't like humans, but it will take the goat, and then you can catch the chupacabra. Easy peasy. 1, 2, 3. You take the goat, chupacabra comes, catch the chupacabra. Done. Do it. Why hasn't it been done?
Why hasn't it been done? Like, guys, we've been sleeping. These last 20 years, we misunderstood the assignment.
Right?
Okay. All right. Huh.
This really did make people pay attention to what was now being called El Chupacabra. Because at this point, like up until this point, it was only called, the Vampire of Moca. They didn't really they didn't even see it. Now people are starting to see it, and because of that comedian, it actually has a name. It has the goat sucker.
I have to remind myself it wasn't named until the 90s. I was just imagining this like community in the 70s just being like El Chupacabra.
No, they were the Vampire of Moca.
El Vampiro de Moca.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't until 95 when it got its real name. Its real name. I mean, who's to say? It could be different things,
it's
right?
True.
Who knows?
Arguably that's the year that I got my real name. So, me and the Chupacabra here, we're best buddies.
Right? You were really officially both named and birthed in 95.
We simply became in 1995.
You simply became. You simply was. You simply
we
were.
manifested together.
Well, oddly enough then, in 96, in Miami, Florida, several more reports floated around of attacks of animals.
It was the third snake.
It's the third
snake all along.
Yeah. Again, the victims, goats, chickens, geese, ducks, all found bloodless. The creature...
Not the ducks, not the geese.
The creature, at this point, though, still oddly enough, was being described as more like alien and impish, like weird demonic type creature than
bipedal and like more humanoid than creature.
Yeah. More human than creature. Though, as the legend migrated west, it kind of adapted. I'm sure there was a lot of other smaller reports kind of between 1996 and what I'm about to talk about that happened in 2007, but I really couldn't find like just a lot of like concrete stuff. And I know that sounds weird, but it's hard to find sightings that have like a lot of traction and then you go, okay, that's worth talking about.
Because I think like once like hype builds, and everyone's just like, I saw a chupacabra, and they're like, oh really, what did you see? And they're like, it was a chupacabra.
Yeah,
and I will not elaborate further. And it's like, okay.
And there's a lot of that out there. And so we could be sitting here for the next 30 minutes talking about all these different sightings from all these different people, because there's www.chupacabra.com, and there's, you know what I mean? Like there's literally a million people out there that have had sightings, and I did not want to kind of flood the episode with just talking about all those. So I'm really talking about just kind of the big ones that I think really just helped shape the Chupacabra legend as it went. Again, if you feel different, or if a Spookery listener feels different, and they go, hey, you forgot to talk about this one. This one is a notable one. Please tell me. We'll address it in the postmortem.
Yeah, we absolutely will.
We're jumping ahead here again. We went from 75 to 95 to now we're going to 2007.
Okay, so yeah, it really is every 20 years. This thing does hibernate every 20 years.
Yeah. So interesting, right?
So we have to watch out. 2035, guys. We gotta watch out.
Yeah.
Like, they're coming.
They're coming. So, in 2007, a woman by the name of Phyllis Kenyon, who lived on a ranch in the town of Curio, Texas, claimed to find an actual carcass of a chupacabra.
Oh, that's a bold claim.
So this is game-changing.
Yeah, we have physical evidence?
A whole body she found.
A whole body of a chupacabra.
Yeah, so this animal, described in the original Associated Press report as a cross between 2 or 3 different things, was found as roadkill on her ranch. And she believed this creature to be responsible for killing many of her chickens.
Do I think the Chupacabra is dumb enough to get hit by a car?
I don't know.
Maybe a truck.
Maybe it thought it was the lights, his friends coming to pick him up, and he's like, that's my guy, and then the car just hits him.
Yeah, I mean, a lot has changed from the 70s to 2007.
Yeah, so you don't know. He just thought he was hitchhiking, and he goes, maybe that's not my friend, but it's more lights. It's clearly a friendly species, and the car just hit him and left him there.
Maybe. I like to think it was like a big truck. Like the big rig, the rigs.
You
rigs.
just hear the as it like
the
Yep.
Exactly that. That's what I'm imagining.
I think that's a pretty accurate depiction of what happened. You can see our reenactment on the Instagram page. Our live reenactment. When we have animations and people that can draw, that would be such a fun.
I can try and create a pseudo one, but oof.
I'm not putting that on you, ma'am. You got other stuff to do.
Then maybe I should.
It's a good project.
I'll see how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
See how spicy I'm feeling.
So Phyllis found this creature. She said, I dug it out of the road because I didn't want anyone driving over it, and I laid it on a feed sack and took a picture. And as they said, it went viral.
It's a bit late for it to not get hit by something on the road.
Well, at that point, she didn't want it to get hit again.
Okay.
Due to the popularity that these photos gained, she started selling t-shirts that read 2007, the summer of Chupacabra, Curio, Texas.
Okay. I think Curio, Texas is a very fitting place for it to have happened.
Yeah. On the shirts themselves, it was that little slogan was accompanied by a caricature of the creature. The shirts themselves sold for $5, and they were sold all over the world, including Japan, Australia, and Brunei, which really helped spread the legend of the Chupacabra.
Yeah.
Many people came up with their own theories as to what this creature in the photos that she posted could be. Some claimed that it was a coyote, as we said, or even a large fox with mange of some sort, or maybe another unknown disease that just overcame it.
Yeah.
It was a weird-looking creature. However, dog breeder groups online were very quick to claim this animal was actually that of a Xoloscuintle, or Zolo for short, which...
Oh, the Zolo dog.
Yeah. So, it is, a hard thing to say, so we call them Zolos.
We do. They're such silly dogs.
They are a breed of Mexican hairless dogs, which you can see in the movie Coco, like you said.
Yes.
So
they're so derpy.
Yeah, they're pretty popular. So it makes sense when you kind of think of it. I mean, we already compared it to that once. I think that's a pretty natural connection to make.
Yeah.
We'll post some photos of the original carcass that was found, as well as some photos of the taxidermied body that Phyllis currently has and is keeping in the middle of her living room.
I'm actually horrified at that knowledge that she taxidermied it.
Oh, she did.
And it's in her living room. To this day.
To this day.
On this good day.
On this good day, right now, while we are sitting here, that thing is sitting in her living room.
I'm kind of horrified by this knowledge.
And we all look up at the same moon together.
We do. And there were twice as many stars out that night. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I don't know why that horrifies me so much. I'm like, yeah, of course she would give it a respectful burial. No, of course she wouldn't. Why would she give it a respectful burial?
She kept
It's in her living room to this day,
right
stinking
now.
up the place. Mm-hmm. Kind of hate that.
Yeah. So after that, the next year later, 2008, again in DeWitt County, Texas, another sighting made headlines. This time, instead of a body, it was dash cam footage, actual video. And not just anyone posted it. Corporal Brandon Reed of the sheriff department posted it.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
So a sheriff posted his dash cam footage of this creature, smaller than the one that Canyon found, but still looking similar enough, and it was running along a fence line. You can see the creature. We'll post what we can, or post a link to it, of this creature running. It from behind, I will say, it looks like a dog.
Does it? It looks like a Zolo dog?
It looks like a dog. I'm going to show you the video. I'll show you the video. And the video is about a minute and a half long from...
This just looks like a dog.
It looks like a dog.
This just looks like a dog.
It just looks like a dog.
These people have never seen a dog before.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that haven't seen dogs before. But nonetheless, that is just a dog.
It's just a dog with a long head. It's just a long-headed dog.
It's just a long-headed dog. Or a Zolo, probably, right?
It's probably a Zolo dog. It does look a bit like a Zolo dog.
So, or like a Greyhound something, I don't know.
Yeah, it could be a mutt. It very well could be a mutt.
Yeah, exactly. It just could be a mutt.
Or it could be a coyote with mange.
A coyote with mange. There's so many things it could be. So
I think I don't believe as a bipedal believer, not a quadruped believer. I don't know. It looks too canid for my liking.
That's all right. That's even for mine. I was very skeptical, but because I want to say that I want to believe in the Chupacabra, and I even put in my script at this point because I was like, as much as I want to say that or I should say, but I'm glad that it's a we, that we both want to believe in the Chupacabra, but this just is not convincing me.
Yeah, I think I've seen too many dogs. I feel like, especially because of the angle that it's filmed at, and like, I don't know. I want to believe, but I don't want to believe in this.
I don't want to believe in this. It's not right.
It's not right.
So,
that ain't right.
As much as we want to believe in this, I think, like I said, Benjamin Radford, come back to him. He really does the best job as a skeptic, and he asks all the right questions to really get to the bottom of this. So like I said, he was very dedicated. So dedicated, in fact, that about 15 years ago, he actually traveled all the way to Puerto Rico himself to interview Madeline Tolentino.
Okay.
The original source of like that first depiction.
Yeah.
The reason that this is pretty significant is because after that initial sighting back in the 70s, Tolentino herself disappeared out of the public eye. She really just wanted to live a normal life. She's just a normal lady.
Fair. Yeah.
She really had only been interviewed maybe once or twice, and not by anyone like Benjamin Radford. So he described Madeline as an intelligent, sober, petite woman in her 40s with an easy smile and a quick laugh. So
nice. Very
nice. He interviewed her about what she saw that night. And though he confirmed that her story was riddled with implausibilities and inaccuracies, he wrote, "The basics remain the same. She said that the creature she saw was about 3 feet tall, not the 4 to 5 feet earlier reported. She also said that its skin looked like she expected an alien's might. She said she herself said, I have an interest in UFOs and aliens, but I never said it was either an extraterrestrial or an animal. I don't know what it is. I've never changed my story," she told Radford. "Most people have believed me. People trust me and know I'm telling the truth." He showed her a drawing that he made based upon her original description, and she endorsed it as the most accurate depiction to date. So we will definitely post that for everyone to see as well.
Yes.
Though, again, after hearing her tale, he compared this creature's description to that of the appearance of that alien monster Syl from the movie Species that we talked about earlier.
Right.
The film had just released in 1995, which was the year of Madeline's initial reported sighting. So even Madeline herself, when presented with this fact, said the resemblance of Syl to the Chupacabra was really impressive. So was that really just the product of a normal imagination being influenced by fiction? Very well could be.
Yeah, I think, as also, especially if you've got a piece of media like in your mind and you see something and you're like, the closest thing I can describe it to is this thing from this movie.
Yep.
And I recognize that like it's not the same, but it's similar. It's the only place of like basis that I have.
Yep.
And 100% it is possible that certain details do bleed into each other. I've definitely done it myself.
Right.
Where, like, I remember it being this way, and then I will rewatch the media, and I'm like, oh, I'm not remembering it quite the same, and I'm like photo bashing in my head.
Yes, like you said, that's the best way. How many times have you like thought about the nostalgic game or movie or show from your childhood, and you're like, and you remember it in such vivid detail of it being one way, and you go to play it again or watch it again or do whatever, and it's very different than that initial depiction. Like our memories do that. They distort themselves. And so I'm not saying it's something that she did on purpose or at all, like even with knowing it, but it's totally possible. This is why eyewitness testimony is not even like, really
it's difficult. It's such a difficult thing because it's not the most reliable source of information. It's a great place to start, but we as humans are intrinsically flawed. It is a fact of life. We are flawed. And we put too much value on ourselves. Stop that. Be humble.
Be humble. Oh, God,
I'm sorry. I spiraled out. I tail spun. I was like, I don't know how to land this plane, so I'm just gonna crash it.
That's all you gotta do sometimes.
Because I'm a flawed human being.
Oh yeah.
And I live by example.
I do, and I want to believe the Chupacabra is real. So I know that if I saw something that even remotely resembled the Chupacabra out in the real world, I'd be like, I saw the Chupacabra. I totally would. I know I would.
And I truthfully, if I saw a Chupacabra in real world, when I would be like, wow, that's incredible, I finally saw it, but I probably would describe it as looking like a kobold from Dungeons and Dragons, like I kind of have in my head.
Right.
Like that's my point of basis. And people are like, yeah, it's a very similar description you have. I'm like, yeah, because it's the one I got.
Exactly. And not just that, but also the way, when I describe something, the way that those words hit your ears and the way that your brain imagines those things
that way.
You know, like it's different than what the next person. I could be saying the exact same thing. I could describe, you know, a blue table with a red ball on it, and you and the person next to you, even your own family member, could think of that scenario completely different.
Well, like, go back to our goblins episode where you described what the goblins looked like, and I had a very distinct image in my head, and then you showed me the picture, and it was completely different to what I had imagined.
Right.
And like, I was like, oh, that's a Murloc from World of Warcraft.
Yes.
And like, but it's like, it's not, but the basis is uncanny.
But you're also not wrong, right? Like, you're what's the word I'm looking for?
Interpretation?
Yes, your interpretation of it is not wrong. It's just different than the next person's. All of these words they mean different things to all of us, and we all picture something different the minute you say something, right? Yes. And that's why, like you said, you compare it to the closest thing you can, which is a kobold, but the way someone else pictures a kobold is completely different than the way you do.
Yeah.
And that's
a Final Fantasy kobold is very different than a Dungeons and Dragons kobold.
It's true. And so I think there's a lot of that where it's just kind of lost in translation in a way, where that's how legends work.
Yeah, because we as humans are flawed, and so our depictions will be flawed. It's a fact of life.
It's true.
We're getting into philosophy now.
We are, but this is the perfect place, actually, because I've pretty much ended my actual research on the Chupacabra. Now we're just kind of getting into theories, because it kind of segues into the current place we're at with the Chupacabra in modern history. So, starting out on our topic of theories about really what the Chupacabra could be, and kind of, again, taking us into modern day Chupacabra, like sightings and things. Benjamin Radford made another great point. Very few of the Chupacabra's victims, or at least original victims, had been examined by an expert.
Right.
No proper autopsy. Exactly, no autopsy. You took the words literally right out of my mouth, you beautiful, wonderful lady.
I saw them bubble and I snatched them right out.
So he himself consulted forensic and veterinary resources and interviewed a forensic pathologist who confirmed that blood loss itself is impossible to verify without conducting a professional necropsy or an autopsy. Necropsy, I guess, is like an autopsy on like an animal.
I think a necropsy, is
like a dead.
I think it's a study of a dead thing rather than like to identify what the cause of death was. I think it's just an overall study.
There you go.
Kind of like a biopsy is like when you take like a skin sample.
Yes. And like there's a little bit of a difference, like you said, and I think you hit the nail on the head with that. Thank you. So this theory explains why two creatures with vastly different visual descriptions were linked together and given the same name. It was solely due to the bloodless state that the bodies of their victims were found in, which really isn't even contributed to an animal sucking blood at all.
Yeah, and it's hard to verify too, because like oftentimes when like at least when I think of like, oh, this creature is bloodless, you know what I think of? I think of it in like ragdoll, like when you pick it up and it's really floppy, and I'm like, just because it's visually ragdolling doesn't mean it's bloodless. It just means that it's loose, like it's not locking joints, it's not resisting, it's quite literally dead weight.
Yes.
And I'm like, if that's how, if I saw something that looked like that, it was ragdolled and it was very easy to move around, and it was just cold, I would be like, yep, it's bloodless, because that's the word, the heat's gone and it's ragdolled.
Exactly.
But I can't verify that. I'm not an expert. I don't know that.
Exactly. And so I think that fact alone was something that is just a misconception right off the bat. I think a lot of people mistook these, like you said, ragdolly carcasses of these animals for a completely bloodless carcass, and so that turned it into the theory of the story of a bloodsucker, the goat sucker.
Yeah, because like the scenes themselves weren't described as bloody, were they? Like the carcasses weren't overly bloody, the scenes weren't bloody. It was just they had puncture wounds.
Yep.
And they were dead.
Yeah.
But they weren't covered in blood. They didn't look bloodied.
No. It was very specific on, like you said, just bloodless bodies, which is interesting, but I mean, it really points to the simplest answer being, is the real answer here that the Chupacabra never existed at all, and that all of these deaths...
No, it exists. We know this.
Right?
I will die on this hill.
Of course. That's why we're getting the worst theory out of the way right off the bat, so we could get into the better ones. So,
Yes.
Like I said, these deaths, they could just be strange and unusual deaths. They could just be that, but that's a boring theory. So, moving on to my favorite theory of the Chupacabra, and I'm sure everyone knows by now, we really do want the Chupacabra to be real. So, I want to believe that everything's real. Aliens, monsters, spooky things, all of it. Otherwise, life is boring, right?
Yes.
So, if the Chupacabra is real, the first obvious theory to me is evolution, right?
Okay.
As writer Jonathan Jerry wrote in his article for McGill University, we can't simply throw out the theory of evolution in order to account for the existence of a fantastical creature. All living things come from somewhere. And I'm like, that just, it really like encapsulates it just so easily and simply of just the Chupacabra really could just be some animal along its line of evolution that we just haven't discovered yet and just have not given a proper name to.
Yeah.
And it's just out there.
I mean, like, think about how many sea creatures we haven't discovered yet that were like new ones are cropping up. The creatures that we thought were long extinct are resurfacing, like the coelacanths.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's so much world out there that has not been explored. There's so much world out there that hasn't been identified. And there's so many places that will struggle to this day to identify. If you told me the Chupacabra was a deep sea creature and it came up every 20 years to feed on our goats and then went back into the ocean, I might believe you.
Right? I mean, I want to live in a world where anything's possible, as silly as that sounds. So, like, I want to hold out hope that there is a creature that does some shit as weird as that.
Yeah. I think we're sleeping on the potential that the Chupacabra might be aquatic.
Right?
Puerto Rico's an island. It's an island. Like, we've long associated the Chupacabra as some sort of desert creature. Wrong. Aquatic. Webbed fingers. It's a swimmer. It's a murloc. It's all murlocs, boys.
It's all murlocs. All the way down.
Whole time it's been murlocs.
Always has been.
Always. Really, the world is 70% water, much like the human body. And I want to say that there's a Chupacabra in all of us, and in our oceans.
And in our oceans. Have you checked your local ocean for a Chupacabra today?
Have you checked your local ocean? But also, you're 70% water. You have a Chupacabra inside you. It's in the 70% water part of you.
Yeah, it's there. It's swimming.
And it's feeding off your blood right now.
Gosh. And that's my favorite theory.
And that's why you get lightheaded when you stand up.
Oh my god.
Yeah, doctors call it an iron deficiency. I call it a case of the Chupacabras.
Yeah, it's just got a case of the Chupacabras, Doc. Calm down. Don't worry about me.
I am not a doctor. Do not take that as sound. That's for legal reasons. This is a joke.
This is a joke. Please.
You do not have a case of a Chupacabras unless you do.
Right? You never know.
I know.
But going along the thought of these crazy theories, this segues perfectly into my next theory, which is...
Oh, great.
What if this creature is not a natural creature at all, but maybe a creature that is a result of a secret U.S. government experiment that just so happened to get loose, similar to Dexter's Laboratory?
Oh my god, it's Dexter's Laboratory all over again.
I told you we'd come back to it.
Yes, Chupi. It got loose.
Because truly, I mean, this is only less than 20 years after MK Ultra, right after we found out the government's lying to us big time. You're really going to tell me that the Chupacabra is off the table? That they haven't been trying to come up with some crazy creature that can suck blood in its I don't know, maybe it's a war thing, and they're I'm just going to release a biological warfare weapon in another country, that's just going to suck the blood of my enemies. But unfortunately, it only sucked the goats.
It's an efficient killer where it's how do you make the creature identify what's a friendly troop and what's a non-friendly combatant? And it's maybe something went wrong in that thing where it just identifies humans as friendly and it physically doesn't attack them.
Right.
That it's got stealth capabilities, it's fast, it can be hit by trucks, so that it's not immune to those. It's not truck proof.
It's not truck proof.
Once again, it wasn't a perfect experiment.
Nope.
But there might be a Chupacabra 7.0 sitting in a lab somewhere in Puerto Rico, just bubbling away.
It also kind of explains why there's different variations of how it looks, right? Like, what if the one that looks like an alien, what if that's like experiment, like you said, 0.1? And then they're like, you know what, actually, let's go for more of a dog look. And so that's Chupacabra 0.2, at like 2.0.
Yeah.
And then they just keep going down the line. And like you said, the newest Chupacabras, we don't even know what they look like.
Yeah, they, like, once again, they could have wings. They might have 6 limbs this time. They could be crawling on the ceilings. They might have been shrunk down.
They could be dolphins.
Spider. They could be in the ocean.
They could be in the ocean. And that's the scariest part. So
yeah. Check your Chupacabras.
Check for the third snake, man. You don't know.
Yeah, that's the next year. It's a third snake.
It's a third snake. It's always
a third snake the whole time.
But this also, once again, ties into the very last theory that I have, which is,
okay.
Again, tying back into kind of what we already talked about. What if this is an alien? What if this is some sort of a shape-shifting alien creature from another planet that changes how it looks? And it's here on Earth. And that's why it has different forms. And that's why all the lights are connected. And this is my craziest theory that I have, and I'm hoping you're just going to go along with it.
I'm trying. You can see it on my face. I'm trying.
I know. I lost you. I had her all the way to here, chat. 128 minutes we were on the same page, and finally, I lost her.
Yep. The tinfoil hat slipped off my head, and I was like, wait a minute.
No, I can push it.
You want me to believe in aliens?
That's too far.
I don't know if you've realized this, chat. At this point, I'm not a big believer in aliens. I want to believe that there's something out there, but I don't want to. Like, I don't really believe that they're coming and eating our goats.
You just don't know.
Nor do I believe that they're plaguing one family in Hopkinsville, wherever you were. I can't remember the name of the Kansas.
Tennessee, Kansas. I don't know.
Tennessee.
I don't know. I don't remember.
It was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
We're
probably both wrong.
I feel like aliens have got something better to do with their time. But aliens, I get like, no.
That's fair.
You want me to believe in deep-sea chupacabras? Absolutely. I am so on board with this. You want me to believe that they're aliens from outer space? No. Inconceivable. There's no physical way. Those little guys can't fly ships. Their hands can't reach the consoles.
They can't. Oh, I get it. We all have to draw our lines somewhere, right? Like, we all have to decide between, again, which animals are too sentient for us to eat, which ones are dumb enough for us call us meals. Again, where do you draw this line? Do I believe in aliens? Do I only believe in the Chupacabra? Everyone has those boundaries, and I hope this episode you figured out where your boundaries lie.
It was right. It was right at that last case. That's where my boundary was.
Yeah. Well,
I want to believe, but I don't know if I believe that much.
Right? No, as weird as it is to say, I kind of hope we never find the actual answer to this. I want life to always be full of mystery, and for future generations to always have something to try to solve. Because if we solve every problem and answer every question, what's the point? Questions that don't have defined answers give me hope, and that means infinite possibilities await.
Yeah, it's true. I think I love a good unsolved mystery. I love the space after a story where it's just like, but like, what was that?
Yes.
And it's never explained. I think I was having this conversation with our friend Gabby. Shout out to Gabby.
Shout out to Gabby.
Yeah. And we were talking about, funnily enough, we were talking about Hinterkaifeck again, because that case lives rent-free in her mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that Hinterkaifeck is a great case of a haunting.
Mm-hmm.
Not because that there's a ghost in the story, but because there's so much mystery and there's so much space where like things just are left to rot and linger that it becomes a haunting all in itself. And that's kind of where cryptids lie. They become a kind of haunting where there's no explanation. We'll probably never find real evidence of a Bigfoot. We'll never find the Loch Ness Monster. The Loch Ness is very small. We would have found it by now, but we'll never know. They can teleport. They're from space. I don't know. Chupacabras, deep sea animals, maybe not. Maybe they're from space. Maybe they were owls the whole time. But it's that space after. It's like the story has ended and we're now in speculation. It's created a haunting. And I fucking love that. I love to explore that haunting. That's the space I love to live in.
I agree with that.
Because hauntings don't have to be ghosts.
No.
They can be something else entirely.
You can be haunted by your regrets.
You can.
All sorts of things.
Your dreams. You can be haunted by your dreams.
Your children.
They're called nightmares in some
We clearly have very different things that we're scared of.
Yeah. Well, like I live with a demon, so like what have I got to be scared of other than myself?
Oh God. This was such a good way. And we're not even done yet, but this is such a good way to start wrapping this episode up. Because
we're not even done. I thought we were done.
We're not even done. We haven't even talked about the Chupacabra's impact on media and how it's still kind of relevant today. Like,
yeah, it's Dexter's Laboratory.
Yeah, again, Dexter's Laboratory. I mean,
I gotta find out when that episode came out.
I know we do. Yeah, I didn't actually, like you said, I didn't tag the date in that in here, but
I'm gonna Google while you're telling me about the society. I'm gonna look it up.
yeah, because I am curious where that falls into this. Because the next one I'm about to talk about comes up in 2016, again in Texas. Weird enough, in Houston this time, a man posted a photo of what he believed to be the legendary beast, just behind a gas station. You just saw it running around. Again, looks just like that dash cam video. The dog. Did you find?
I think I did. It was in season 2 of Dexter's Laboratory, first aired in 1997.
Oh my gosh!
So it was part of it was part of the first batch, 2 years after like the resurgence.
So you have to cut this into the middle of the episode then, right?
No. We'll leave it right here. And it was Dexter going into South America, which funnily enough is not relevant to this.
No.
But he goes to South America to get his creature named Charlie. Not Chupi, Charlie.
Charlie.
Who's broken out of his lab. And so he goes to South America, and yeah, it basically plays out how I said at the very beginning, where it's just like he's on this thing, and everyone's like, it's the Chupacabra, but it's actually Charlie. He's not it ends with Dexter remarking that Charlie wasn't his completely successful experiment.
Huh.
But yeah. But yeah, 1997, October of 1997.
Wow.
That's when this episode came out, and it was a sub episode, so it was like a third, like like a lot of those old shows, like had like these 5-minute shorts, but like then like it was the whole episode. So it was episode 16, but it was episode 16C. So it was part C of. It was like a short as part of a larger episode.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
The Chupi I was thinking about was a little like Chupi gremlin doll that it was one of the zoos in Florida actually for some reason decided to put in their enclosures, and they're like, tag if you can find Chupi, and I'm like, that's kind of cute that they did that, like to kind of throw back to the original sightings in Florida there. I was like, okay, they're like Chupi. Okay. But also if you look up Chupi, the Chupacabra, he's a pretty famous Instagram cat.
Okay.
That kind of just looks like he's a hairless, like some sort of cat. I don't know. He was really cute, but I found him a lot as I was doing this research. He just kept popping up.
Fair. Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah. But other than that, through their growing popularity, as a lot of cryptids have, Chupacabras really impacted mainstream media. Like as we're describing all these examples now. They are the subject of comics, TV shows, books, movies, and of course, even become the subjects of podcasts like ours today.
Wow, look at that. Yeah. Full circle.
There's even this adorable children's book I found called The Chupacabra Ate the Candelabra by Mark Tyler Nobleman that I feel
like you should spit that out.
I'm buying it for every child in my life right now. I have 6 copies on the way. I have a child's birthday coming up next weekend. I'm not even kidding, and I'm buying it for her. She's turning 1, but I'm like, I'll start her young. It's perfect.
She's gonna be a Spookery if she kills us.
Literally. I'm like, I need to...
You mentioned you had a book on reserve. It's this book. It's the Chupacabra Ate the Candelabra.
I don't know if her mom's gonna love it, but we'll see.
Start them young. You gotta start them young.
She knows I'm buying her a book. That's what I told her I was buying her already. And then I found this, and I'm like, perfect. This is fantastic.
Full circle. Don't listen to this episode until your birthday's coming. 1-year-olds.
Please don't. Little G, don't do it. Oh god. So they do get referenced quite a bit, but somehow, like I said, I'm very shocked at how few people know the Chupacabra. And I for some reason, I put this in my script because I didn't know what your story with the Chupacabra was. I was like, was your first interaction with the Chupacabra was it Hell of a Boss with the Chupacabra? I didn't know.
No, it was not. It was Dexter's Laboratory from 1997.
God, but how funny that it full circles with cartoons. Right?
Yeah, it's cartoons. And that's a fun little reference. We've been calling it the Chupacabra every now and then. It's because Alana and I are watching Hell of a Boss.
That's what inspired this episode. It reminded me. I was like, the Chupacabra exists. Yeah, let's talk about him.
Yeah, let's talk about him. Yeah. And I think it's, once again, it goes back to that mentality. Like, the Chupacabra is not... It's not a threat. Mm-mm. It's almost like a sideshow thing where you go to look at it. It's an animal, and it can hurt you if it needs to. But it's like everyone kind of just assumes but it's not part of its nature. It's not hostile by nature. It just likes to eat goats.
It just likes to eat goats. Just keep the goats away from him, and he's fine. He's just a silly little guy.
Yeah. So it's just, I don't know. It's the Chupacabra's never had. It's never had a threatening aura unless you're a goat farmer, in which case I'm sure it has a very threatening aura.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's one of the, it's a cryptid that's like safe for children's media. And like I can't say for certain that Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster fall into that category. I know like Mothman certainly doesn't.
I don't know.
Mothman is more popular in like young adults.
I've seen Mothman on some baby stuff before, actually. That's so weird. I don't know why, but I'm gonna find every child's themed like cryptid I can. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Spookery listener, if you find baby clothes that aren't custom made like in an Etsy shop, if you find baby clothes that have cryptids on them, I'm like, and they're like mainstream media, I'm very curious. Can you send those to us at spookerypodcast@gmail.com?
I have to corrupt the children in my lights. The youth of our lives need this.
Yes, but I also want to know like which cryptids make the cut.
Yeah.
Because like, does the Fresno Nightcrawlers make that cut? Does Mothman make that cut? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Slenderman probably doesn't.
No.
Although Slenderman and like Siren Head, they're like different kinds of cryptids. They're like internet cryptids, which also do fall into this category, but like there's something else entirely.
That, like you said, the newer internet cryptids that like came and kind of like arose with like the stardom of like creepypastas and stuff like that, like those will be fun to tap because we I think are more interested. It kind of dates us, right? It shows that we're a little bit older. That we really like these like more like, I don't know, word of mouth cryptids, like these like legends that were spread naturally and organically, because the ones online have a very different feel to them.
They do, and it's almost like the internet cryptids are limited to like a certain age range. Like I wouldn't hear a 60-year-old talk about Slenderman.
Nope.
But I might hear a 10-year-old and a 30-year-old and a 60-year-old and a 90-year-old to talk about the Loch Ness Monster.
Exactly.
And it's like there's almost like an age cap on internet cryptids, and like usually adults don't hear about internet cryptids until something goes wrong. And a kid brings an internet cryptid into something else, and it's like, well, why were they so obsessed with this? What is this thing? Yeah. And it's usually a consequence of something else.
Yeah. You're so right about that, actually. Like you said, it's not relevant until it's important because of a bad reason.
Yeah. I have so many cases about that with Slenderman and Siren Head, and I'm very excited to talk about internet cryptids. Yeah. But I never roll this category, so I can't.
But that'll be the difference between yours and mine cryptid, like you said, when we do these episodes. I think it'll be so interesting to see, because I keep pulling from these old cryptid, but even the Chupacabra is fairly new, I guess.
Yeah, relatively.
Yeah.
I mean...
I know, I say that.
It's still 50 years old, technically.
I know.
Technically.
That's not... Young is such a relative term when you're a 3,000-year-old vampire, so just please give us a break.
I'm sorry. Well, we're due another Chupacabra resurgence in 10 years, so watch out for your goats. In 10 years, I'm predicting it now. In 10 years, there's going to be a goat epidemic. Watch out.
We'll see. We'll have to cover it then.
Be careful. Yeah. Spookery's still going, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well,
Can't keep the podcast down.
The last piece of media I want to talk about before we just wrap up this episode completely was the most recent piece of media that I've seen the Chupacabra in, and it's a movie called Chupa, which came out in 2023.
Okay. All right.
It's a movie about a young boy who is on a family trip to Mexico, and he discovers a young Chupacabra hiding in his grandfather's shed.
Okay.
The photos of this thing from the movie kind of are low-key cursed, I'm not gonna lie. It has Sonic the Hedgehog vibes from the live-action animation. It's to me personally, it looks a little cursed. But
Google this.
It looks like a koala cat with like a weird underbite. That's the best way I can describe it. But again, that's my weird description. You're gonna look at it and say it looks nothing like that, right?
I'm gonna find it.
I don't know. It's kind of cute, I guess. Like, it's so ugly that it's cute.
Oh.
What the
fuck?
That's exactly my reaction.
What the fuck? That's not a Chupacabra.
Right?
That's a Lion King live-action remake reject.
Yeah, it's really bad.
That looks like it could have been in Lion King live-action remake.
Yeah.
Like, that could have been Simba. And they just strapped wings on it.
Yeah.
Why does it have wings?
I don't know, but again, isn't that funny though? A lot of like some depictions have wings, and I don't know where the wing thing came from.
It almost like it's so weird because in some of these images it like looks like a cat, and then in other images it looks like a monkey because it suddenly has thumbs, and I'm like, the thumbs are not consistent. In some of the renderings it has thumbs, and in some of it doesn't. And I'm like,
it's cursed. Like
decide.
I said, it's Sonic the Hedgehog type curseness. Like, it's bad. But I do want to watch that, so that's on our watch list.
It is kind of cute though. I think it's not as cursed as the original Sonic the Hedgehog. This is like. It's the thumb changing that's really getting me. Why do you have thumbs in this shot and you don't have thumbs in this one? We'll post a photos on the Instagram.
Absolutely, we will. But yeah, that's the very last thing I had for the Chupacabra. Just a lot of little things that add up to a whole lot of nothing.
No, it adds up to that space between fact and fiction where the hauntings exist, and we live in this space, and we have to debate and talk amongst ourselves that maybe the Chupacabra is a deep-sea creature, and maybe it is a winged angel from the very bowels of our imagination. Maybe that's what a Bible-accurate angel looks like. It just looks like a really mangy Zolo dog. Maybe, just maybe, somebody's animal got out and it just had a really fucked up head. Maybe it is a science experiment from 70s era U.S. history, and they got out.
And they just abandoned it. They're like, that's a problem, but we're not for us.
We're not even going to worry about it. It duplicates by looking at goats, and like the more goats it eats, the more they are, and there's nothing we can do
Every
about
goat
it.
it eats, it grows an inch. That's how it works.
It grows an inch and it becomes a third snake.
So,
and there's one right behind you right now, dear listener. Look out! Look out! Right behind you! Oh God!
It's a third snake! Oh.
But yeah, I think the Chupacabra is such a fun story, purely because there's like kind of like Bigfoot. Like everyone kind of knows what Bigfoot looks like, and everyone kind of knows what the Loch Ness monster looks like. But the Chupacabra is so different in all of its variations. It's like sometimes it's bipedal, sometimes it's a quadruped, sometimes it looks like a dog, sometimes it looks like a monkey, sometimes it's a fish, sometimes it has wings, sometimes it has thumbs.
Sometimes it's got RGB spikes down its back. Like you just don't know.
Maybe, yeah, it's a walk-in discotheque. I don't know.
You don't know. And we don't know.
It can fly. It flies a ship. It needs help flying someone through it really far. I don't know.
It can't fly, but it also gets hit by a car. Like it's very intelligent, but very
it's
stupid.
smart enough to pilot a spaceship, but it does get hit by a car. I mean, arguably, humans, I could say, are the same thing, where we are also dumb enough to get hit by a car.
Okay, enough smart points. Moving on. I think it's wheel time almost here, guys.
It's wheel time. All right. But yes, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for bringing the Chupacabra into our spooky little library, because it is a very fun cryptid, and I love exploring this. I love the fact that you acknowledge that it, much like quicksand in the Bermuda Triangle, I thought it was going to be more relevant to my life.
Truly.
Maybe it's not too late.
Maybe it's not. We've been preparing this whole time for who knows. But
For who knows what.
yeah.
But yeah, what a beautiful little boy.
Final shout out to Benjamin Radford again, because he just provided so much knowledge for this, and just the fact that he was willing to travel, and like he's a skeptic to his core, so he's like, I'm gonna disprove this thing, and he flew all the way to Puerto Rico, interviewed the original witnesses, like consulted experts, like just honestly, so like I aspire to be this man and to be able to go and do the things that he is doing for the sake of just knowledge. It's impressive and it's amazing, and I love it.
The podcast is young, ma'am. Maybe Spookery season 4. You and I will be out in the field, doing interviews, taking names, finding weird creatures in the ocean.
I would love that.
I
would love that.
We'll see where Spookery takes us. But as you gracefully mentioned, I do think it's wheel time. As fun as it is to throw facts at you and wrenches in your alien thing, we're gonna spin the wheel. Are you ready?
I am so ready. I can feel the spookery spirits in this Chili's tonight. Let's go.
I thought we were at a Wendy's.
Oh God, I can't read.
All right, here we go. Oh Lord, she's spinning. Oh Lord, she's spinning. Oh God, she's spinning. Ma'am, are you ready?
Oh God,
are you ready for your next case?
Lay it on me.
Your category is unsolved mysteries.
Yes, unsolved mysteries. Let's go. Oh my God.
Our second unsolved mysteries for season 2.
I am so I can.
Wow, wee wow.
I have.
It's cults from season 1.
Gosh, why am I like I can hoodwink you because you won't know it's not going to be solved, but you know that it's not going to be solved. There's no way to hoodwink you, but I'm going to try.
I will remain aware that it's an unsolved mystery.
Please forget halfway through and be like, she's gonna wrap this up. She knows the ending.
There's gonna be a logical conclusion. I can just feel it. I feel like this is very fitting because I think the last couple of pretty much all of season 2, I've been really mean to you, and I'm really sorry.
It's been a ma'am. There's no one else I would rather bully me with knowledge than you. It's been a pleasure, truly. Like, thank you.
Honestly, up until this point, I think that season 2 has just been me going, "Oh, you think this, but actually, no, you're wrong. Forget everything.
Oh,
I'm about to prove how wrong you are." And now this is your comeuppance. This is your way to throw it back at me. So I'm very excited. I can't wait to see which unsolved mystery. I hope it's not one that I have, because it might be.
Right? You never know. We'll have to see. But the beauty of that is, if I do pick one that was on your case, you probably will see things in it that I didn't. The same way we did with the Chupacabra. So
it's true.
We can always go back and do it again. That's always on the table.
The beautiful thing about Spookery is that the cases don't just once we talk about them, they don't just end.
Right.
Like, years down the line, we might have solved Bella and the Witch Elf. We may have solved Chupacabra. We may have solved Talipo. To this day, I still find things out about Talipo.
Oh.
And we can always come back.
We can always come back.
With a vengeance.
Absolutely. Oh. Wow.
Well, I am very excited for your unsolved mysteries, ma'am. I cannot wait to see what you get.
Ooh, I can't wait to get cracking on it. Like you said, I got to consult my spreadsheet here and figure out what case I am picking.
Well, I'm happy to report that you're going to have some time, because it's time to tease my next case.
Ooh.
And boy howdy, I think I may have accidentally pulled a Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh God. Oh God.
I don't think I think it's probably about the same length as Bonnie and Clyde, truthfully.
Okay.
Just based on how my script is going so far.
Yeah.
Not to spoil anything, but it's going to be a big one, which means that you have some additional time to work on your unsolved mystery.
Perfect.
And I guess my teaser for it, I love the context.
Yes.
Even though I love the stories. This is a case with an equal amount of context to the case itself.
Okay.
So I do spend a long time in the context. I think right now I'm covering about 150 years of context.
Wow.
So
okay.
Do with that what you will. I'm gonna pop it there, and that's all I'll say. Otherwise, I'm gonna spoil it. I'm gonna start talking about it now, and then we're gonna be here for at least 3 episodes.
Huh. All right. I'm excited. 150 years. That's a long time of human history to be covering, ma'am.
It is.
That's ambitious.
It is. Well, it's bold of you to assume that it's human history.
Oh.
It might be.
I'm so excited. Oh my gosh,
I
I'm so
don't know.
excited. Wow.
But we'll deal with that next week.
Yes.
Spookery listener, you're in for a time. If you enjoyed Bonnie and Clyde, I have a feeling that the next week's episode is going to be for you. If you did not enjoy Bonnie and Clyde, I'll see you after.
Fair enough. Well, I know I enjoyed it, so I'll be here for it.
Oh, you have to be here for it. You don't get a choice. You have to sit down with
She's holding me hostage.
I do. I am.
And I love every minute of it.
Well, amazing. What an incredible episode of Spookery. Alana, where can our dear listener find us?
You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, probably some other places too, at Spookery Podcast.
I think those are our main. Wow.
She's a pirate.
I lost it, boys. I think those are our main points of contact for now. Social media is in constant flux, so we have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
So we're gonna stick with what we have. And then
if you go on social media and you type in Spookery Podcast, you may or may not see us. If you find us, follow us. If not, great. See us somewhere.
Yeah. I can't even say that. Look for like recent posts, because we haven't really posted recently, but that's fine. We're there.
We're there.
Just look up Spookery Podcast in Google. We'll pop up probably. You can send us a Gmail at spookerypodcast@gmail.com. I think I mentioned that earlier. If you guys have an understanding, we're putting a bounty on Instagram. If you can figure out that name, let us know.
Please.
If you can find baby items with cryptids on them that aren't made on Etsy, send them our way.
Yeah. If you have any other relevant, again, Chupacabra, like, encounters, anything personal or otherwise that you just think it would be relevant to this, that you want us to talk about in the postmortem, please send them our way. And that goes for any future topic. If you want us to talk about a topic and address a topic, give us some ideas. We're happy to take suggestions.
Yeah, if you have personal stories that or little, I think I described them as like side scroller stories, like the things on your local news that like all the only mention they got was that one sentence thing where it's like woman found or weird animal or whatever it is. If there's like little stories that you just want a little bit more attention to, like send them our way. We love those little things. So we love to spotlight little cases like that. If you liked this episode or any of the episodes that came before, please consider leaving us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. It really helps us with the algorithm, because who the fuck knows how that works.
Yep, not me. But I know that thumbs up helps. So please, if you enjoy it, that's all we ask.
Yeah. And that's that on that. Thank you so much for listening to Chupacabra extraordinaire, Spookery special
Heck yeah.
hosted by Alana. Thank you so much for an amazing script. Thank you for taking us on this journey. Thank you for making me relive my childhood for a hot minute there.
Oh, of course. I'm so glad we had the same childhood. But just, I don't know how that happened, but I love it.
Yeah, the parallels
Amazing.
are vast and incomprehensible, and I love them.
And I love them.
And I love you.
Oh.
I love you, man.
Ending this on such a wholesome note. I love it.
Right.
Oh, well,
And on that note,
until next time.
stay spooky, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.
To over 30 animals at this point.
Oh my God, this is a prolific little guy.
Sorry, there's some cheering outside. I just want to make sure it doesn't make it. Did you hear that?
Chupacabra!
Yeah, they're
Yes!
really excited too. My neighbors.
60 animals! Yeah!
60 animals, let's go!